So I'm a pretty big fan of this one series. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Far Cry. You can say I'm an enjoyer per se. These games are fucking fun as hell, dude. Probably one of my favorite base game systems in any series, actually. Shooting and running in first person has never felt as good as in these games. And I don't know if it's the Dunia engine or what, but this shit is fucking so good. And I started with 2 because that's all my computer could run. And let me tell you something, the improvements to like the movement system game after game, phenomenal. Every game it's gotten better. But here's the problem. Here's the big issue I've been having with the games lately. Well, the movement system has only gotten better. I feel like everything else has just fucking not tried to improve at all. And I normally don't have strong opinions about stuff. I'm a pretty neutral guy, but the amount of wasted potential this series has, it's peeved me off a little bit. I'm a little bit miffed, you could say. Like 2 and 3 have unfortunately been the peak of the series, and there's been so little improvement that I have almost no desire to play Far Cry 6. And I hate that. I want to feel the burning passion, the excitement when Ubisoft announces a new Far Cry, but the company just keeps refusing to do anything new with their fantastic base. So why don't I want to play 6? What has Ubisoft done with the series that makes me so apathetic towards it? Before I start complaining though, let me just vigorously suck these games off by talking about what they've been doing right. One of which, like I said, is the movement system. God, every game I've played has just improved the movement so much. Far Cry 2's was a little clunky, like you can't run and strafe and your movement options are way more confined than later games, but it's still really weighty and precise. Once you've gotten used to the slide distance and like jump arcs, moving around the battlefield feels super tactical and really gets you into a good combat flow. And then in 3 and 4, they made the movement so much more fluid and it feels fantastic. You can now sprint and strafe. You can climb small ledges and hop fences. You can dive into the water and actually see where you're swimming. God, it feels so good to move around. And the wingsuit, God, what a genius addition. Having a portable hang glider makes exploring so much better. And then in 4, they added a grapple hook, which it admittedly is a little buggy, but is super satisfying to swing around on. Then I feel like in 5, they've actually fucking perfected the movement. I don't know if it's because I played this one with a controller, but holy shit. The weight and power of your movements are so fucking good. I don't know what kind of tweaks they made, but holy shit, they are on point. As for new additions, the ability to jump through windows and slam through doors is genius. It's such a small thing, but it adds so much to the feel of movement. And you know what else feels good in these games? Just blasting dudes in the face. Every gun is so satisfying to shoot. The power they have, the sounds they make, it's the same thing with the movement, where every game, the feeling of shooting a gun has just been a straight improvement. And since you almost always have a gun in your hands, this in tandem with the movement make for some of the best feeling FPS gunfights ever put into a video game. But walking and running aren't always the main ways to get around in Far Cry, because the devs made this really good decision where they put vehicles into the game, and it became one of the best parts. Driving cars feels so good. I know some people complain that it's hard to see where you're going in first person, which is valid, but personally, I think it really adds to the fun. In 2, the cars kind of work the same with the walking movement, where it's a little clunky, but also feels very deliberate and tactical. Like, you're not going to be power sliding everywhere, but if you aim at a certain spot, you're definitely going there. 3 and 4 had okay car physics. It's a lot more fluid than 2, and still really fun to drive, but it's missing a little bit of that charm, and it's a little too easy to drive around. Then I feel like in 5, in general, just fucking cranked the weight scaler, because this is 3 and 4's driving on steroids. This game's driving is so fun that it tricks me into thinking I like driving in real life. The cars feel way more uncontrollable than in 3 and 4, but it's so much better. There's so much more charm and skill involved in driving. It's fucking perfect. The boats are also pretty good. The jet skis introduced in 3 are especially fun to drive. Same deal with cars. 2 is very precise, 3 and 4 are more fluid, and then 5 just improves on the past. Except for one big notable exception, the hovercraft in 4, that thing sucks my fucking nuts. It is the least fun boat ever made. That feels like shit. So this is kind of where my praises end and problems start, because in terms of vehicles, Far Cry 4 introduced this funny little guy called the gyrocopter, which is a really interesting addition. It was really fun to fly because it was a little janky to control and had like no protection, so it almost felt like it was going to get you killed more than it was going to get you where you needed to be. But there's one little issue it had where you could just fly over the whole map and not interact with the world whatsoever. Like, sure, if you fly low enough, the bad guys can shoot at you, but you could also just not do that and get to where you needed to go completely unscathed. But apparently Ubisoft didn't consider this at all, because in 5 they just added full actual ass helicopters, which is an incredibly lame decision. Because yeah, well, it is fun to mow down a group of dudes while being completely invulnerable. You know it's not fun? Flying from one part of the map to the other in a straight line. Where's the adventure? Where's the challenge? How is this fun? You can literally get an NPC to shuttle you around. This shit's fucking brainless. Planes are a little better just because they are a little bit more janky. Landing and taking off is slightly more challenging, and you can't just station stationary, blow people up, but they have the same problem of once you're in the air, you just look in one direction and fly wherever you want to go. I think 6 actually tried to fix this though with more anti-air guns, which is fantastic. Way to go, 6. I hope it actually works to incentivize ground exploration. But I think this issue really stems back to one thing, and that's Ubisoft's map and world design. For some reason, the main philosophy behind the world design right now seems to be, oh, big good, make map big more fun, which is just fucking false. That is untrue. You know what's not fun? Hiking across a huge ass map with like nothing in it. And they try to fix this with fast travel, which is lame as shit. What's the point of even having this super cool giant world if you're just gonna skip over it all? And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I do enjoy all the free space to drive around in, but there's still like no reason to explore it. Funnily enough, I feel like bigger maps actually limit what the designers can do with the world and the time frame they're given. And this really hits home in 4 and especially 5. There's a lot of areas in 4 where you can't drive on account of the admittedly really cool terrain, and instead of putting the interesting stuff there, they either put nothing or a useless fucking collectible. There's so many spots in 4 where I'm like, oh damn, this is beautiful. This looks like such a cool area to explore, only to find out that there's no reason to go there. It's the same shit in 5, just on like a way bigger scale. There's so many cool areas, like these canyons or this huge plateau, and there's so much potential for cool stuff, but the designers can't do anything with it because they've already put all the interesting stuff somewhere else. The worst example I think of this is Faith's boss fight. This fight takes place in the Bliss, so it's kind of uncertain where you are in the world, but if you search carefully, you can actually find the arena where you fight her in the normal world. And you'd think that there'd be something really cool there, like some drip or a new weapon or some lore or something, but your reward for exploring and paying attention to the world is fucking nothing. But the designers want you to explore all these super cool places they've made, so they put these cute little collectibles everywhere, but it usually just ends up feeling like a waste of time. It'll be like, oh wow, what a cool cave, I wonder what kind of stuff is in here. Oh, it's a fucking bobblehead. There's almost never a good reward for finding all this shit either, and the most painful part is that they've already figured out how to make good collectibles multiple times. In Far Cry 5, the records are such a cool collectible. Being able to find songs to add to the in-game radio is such a fun thing to do, but because there's so much other useless shit, they end up in the dumbest fucking spots in an ocean of other worthless collectibles. Wow, I'm sure happy this cool cave had yet another Vietnam lighter or another Mask of Yalong. Can't wait to find out what happens when I collect them all. Gonna suck Far Cry 2's dick here because that game had actual good collectibles, being the diamond briefcases. Getting to geocache for a little extra money is fun as hell, and they actually have some use in the world. Shit's expensive, diamonds are important. And the jackal tapes, like Mohan Ghali's journals, good job 4, they give cool background details on the world and story. Unfortunately, the diamond briefcases do become useless once you realize that taking phone contracts nets you more money, and you've already bought all your favorite guns. So Far Cry's worlds have been getting a little too big with too little to actually do in them, but what about the things that live there? Animals in Far Cry are a really good addition to the game world. They make the world feel so much more alive, and in every game after 2, they actually interact with the world in meaningful ways. I genuinely love feeling like at any point a tiger could come by and kill me, as much as it could come by and kill all the enemies that were trying to shoot me. Far Cry's worlds already present themselves as hostile to the player, and having killer animals makes the world feel like a hostile place for everyone, not just the player. Not that I hate the peaceful animals, I actually love them. They really help with the liveliness of the world itself. Like, time moves independent of the player. But even though Ubisoft's done it so right, I feel like the animals have kind of gotten downgraded through each game. 3 was definitely still the peak. The amount of shit that could kill you and dudes that were just kind of hanging out were definitely the best balanced in this one, as well as the variety. 3 felt like it had different kinds of guys everywhere, and both the water and land were full of animals. 4 was pretty good as well for variety. The world just felt a lot more empty, I think, although this could be due to a decrease in foliage. It just seemed like there was like generally less wildlife spawning and less unique situations to encounter them. Except for the fucking eagles, apparently. Those motherfuckers are everywhere and are only ever a nuisance. And then 5 just limited itself by being set in Montana. Obviously, the variety couldn't be super big. There's a lot of antlered guys and bears and shit. But same thing as 4, the world was so big, I feel like I barely interacted with any of these guys. And I feel like they never impacted the gameplay the same way they did in 3, where animals could just come out of the woodwork and kill a bunch of dudes. Even when released from a cage, most of the time they would just die before killing more than one bad guy. It seems like 6 did a decent job with variety as far as I can tell, which is really good, but the map is also the biggest in the whole series, so I feel like these poor guys are gonna get very little time in the spotlight. We can't have just animals here. What is this? What is this, fucking Noah's Ark? Where are the people? Well, Far Cry has them, and let me tell you, the friendly people are stupid as shit. If they're here to make the world feel more hostile, then they are doing their job wonderfully, because these motherfuckers have a nearly 100% death rate. If the player doesn't personally intervene, these NPCs will almost always die every chance they get, which makes it really hard to care about the main goal of liberating the people when the people you're trying to free can't seem to take care of themselves. I think they also exist to make the world feel more alive and dynamic, and if that's the case, please keep them out of places where they keep fucking dying dying. The towns in 3 and 4 are some of my favorite places in those games because they do feel alive. People are hanging out, they're going about their business. It's nice, no one is getting mauled by bears or being executed. The AI is actually smart enough to live here. 5 actually did a really good job with outposts in this regard. I really like them. People actually live there now instead of just having 3 or 4 guys guarding it. The couple towns themselves are still way too spread out. Everyone feels too confined to their homes. Far Cry 2 I think still had the best balance though, where all the nice people are in one spot and all the bad guys are just everywhere else. And the bad guy AI that roams the world, it's still pretty good though. They'll shoot at you, they'll chase you around, they'll call backup sometimes. I feel like it gets overwhelming at points though, like what the fuck is happening here? And this also does not extend to more stationary encounters, because the AI there also suffers from some fucking dum-dum syndrome. On harder difficulties, they're still very lethal, but especially if you're running a silenced sniper, they're just fucking clueless. But speaking of a silenced sniper, some of the weapons in these games are just kind of fucking broken. Like, as soon as you can get a medium to long range weapon with any kind of silencer, the game's over, because you can just no effort stealth take out entire outposts with that shit. Even a silenced pistol is busted as fuck unless there are armored guys hanging around. Silencers are also easily the best gun mods, because most of the other ones just feel kind of unnecessary. Like, scopes are really cool, but once again, they kind of just make some of the weapons super fucking busted, or are just basically for aesthetics, because it's just as easy to aim without one. And then extended mags are just so boring. How would you ever buy this? Like, on some guns, yeah, it makes sense and it's kind of funny, but damn bro, I never found myself buying these things until post-game. And the same kind of stagnation that's present in other parts of the game is definitely present in weapon mods as well. I don't think the mods have changed since 3. Like, even in 6, where they emphasize new modding mechanics, it's still the same shit with like a couple of good tweaks. I would really like for these mods to, instead of being similar for every weapon, just be baked into individual weapons to increase the variety of guns, because let me tell you, this is an area where the series has refused to improve. A lot of the guns in a single class feel like super similar to use, with a couple exceptions. Like, every shotgun feels the same, almost every pistol feels the same. The SMGs are surprisingly different, but why would you use them when assault rifles exist and have a ton of replica variants? I like to see a lot more side grades, please, and the games do have them. They do exist, but mostly in 2 and 3. And having more variety with weapons would actually give more validity to some really underused systems, like the weapon switching. If you can carry as many guns in 6 as you could in 3, 4, and 5, taking this out was genuinely a good idea. I saw people getting mad about this, like how could you be mad? This mechanic has been obsolete since 3. I'm pretty sure this was introduced in 2, and it worked really well for that game, because 1, you had a limited inventory, so you might have to swap weapons to fit a new situation. And 2, weapons actually degraded, so you could get less shitty weapons from just looting a dead guy. Ever since though, it's just been this vestigial system where instead of looting a guy's corpse, you just juggle some guns for 10 seconds. I shit you not, at the end of John Seed's bunker in 5, when you're meant to grapple onto the helicopter, I literally could not find a spot to initiate the prompt because there were so many guns on the ground. My guy kept juggling that shit like a circus clown instead of doing the cool action scene Ubisoft wants in their games. Which brings me to a really quick point I want to make about the story structure in the open world, because it's really linear and doesn't seem to incentivize the open world at all. Most of the story missions in 3 just happen one after another, and you kind of just drive between them as you feel like it, with no direct need to explore. Then they tried something a little different in 4 by tying the story progression to how many outposts you free, which you think would enhance the open world aspects, but you could realistically still all do this just in a linear mission. And then 5 came in with their funny kidnapping system, which was based on a liberation bar you filled by doing like side quests or helping NPCs, which is a really cool idea, but in practice it still doesn't incentivize the open map and kind of just intrudes when you're trying to do other shit. I just think they could be doing a lot more to tie the open world into the story missions, because once you're done with a mission, there's nothing left to do in the area it took place. Enemies don't come back, the place isn't removed off the map, it's just more empty space in the world when the world really doesn't need it. Along with story progression, I also just want to talk about character progression real quick, because it's also gradually just gotten worse. And 2, there was no real character progression at all. You could buy a stealth suit, and that was pretty much the extent of it. There were no real character upgrades, and that was lame. Buying more upgrades would have been really interesting. In 3, we got the perk system, which was fantastic for that game, because it really tied into Jason's character arc of becoming this super good murder guy, as you, the player, got better at the game. The perks themselves were also fairly interesting, especially the takedown and other combat skills. They actually changed the way you play the game. And then 4 just copied 3 and did nothing to really change it. Like, you get more XP from hostage rescues, which is cool, I guess. But how does that impact AJ as a character or the story itself? It really doesn't, and that's lame, bro. That sucks. And 5 is also just really lame from a story and character perspective, because you just read magazines and somehow know stuff better, or can carry more ammo with no like in-world explanation. But actually finding the perk points is really cool, because it actually ties into exploration, and the best way to get points is to do prepper stashes, which actually require a little bit of world interaction. It's too bad the perks in this game fucking suck ass. All the cool stuff has already been unlocked by default, so you get to spend all your cool points on extra health for Herc, who sucks, by the way. Fuck Herc. I'm glad they made him a companion so I can beat the shit out of him. But why'd they even make companions opinions anyway. Like, aside from having some impressive animations, I don't get the point. Are the games not easy enough? You don't trust the player enough to shoot the bad guys by themselves? If you're trying to build a hostile world, giving the player a friend is a nice thing. After a long day of getting your shit kicked in, it's nice to have someone to rely on in case things really go south. Especially when they're a likable character. Those are the best. It's too bad I don't care about any of these guys except for Boomer, and that's only because he's a cute dog. Speaking of animals and going back to character progression, what happened to crafting tools? I thought that was one of the coolest parts of 3, was being able to skin animals and actually use that resource to upgrade your stats a little bit. Like, yeah, it could have been way better, but that's what sequels are for, right? Well, apparently that's too interesting to develop for Ubisoft because 4 came along with no new additions to skin crafting, and then 5 thought that was way too interesting because it scrapped the idea altogether. Why, bro? We went from nothing in 2 to a cool idea with tons of room for improvement to fucking nothing again. What's the point? Skins are just used for money now, which is actually worthless. Money in Far Cry doesn't do shit. Even in 2, the game whose story heavily involves money, it's fucking worthless after a certain point. In every game, sure, it's useful at first to buy the guns you want and some ammo sometimes, but once you reach about the halfway point and all the guns you want are unlocked, it's literally worthless. There's almost no need for it. And you get so much of it that buying the stuff you want is basically free after a while. Far Cry 2 almost made money work too because of the weapon degradation system. Of course you'd want to buy new guns because the ones you pick off enemy corpses were full of dirt, they jam, they were unreliable. But once you bought a gun, you just got to restock on it for free for the rest of the game. So anytime you needed a fresh gun, you just stop by a resupply building and boom, no more jamming. This sucks because it totally invalidates 2 of Far Cry 2's really unique systems, and the game really suffers for it. And you know what 6 really suffers from? A lack of melee options. What happened to melee, Ubisoft? You trying to do a Pokemon? You trying to just introduce cool mechanics in each game and then not expand on them all in the next? Melee was like one of the best parts of 5. Smashing people with a baseball bat and kicking them while they're down is some of the most fun you can have in that game. And there's so much you could do to tweak it and improve it. But of course, Ubisoft couldn't do that, could they? They had to take it out to make room for Supremos. Oh wow, what a fun mechanic. I can't wait to see that get taken away in Far Cry 7. Just like how 6 took away syringes or homeopathics, whatever you want to call them. Which is a fair decision, I'm not gonna lie, no one fucking used these, but they're some of the biggest wasted potential in the series in my opinion. There were so many cool effects in 3, like of course medicine is always helpful, but unless you're deliberately turning off mechanics like camera tagging and cranking the difficulty, most of the other ones are just useless. Then of course Ubisoft does that classic thing where they ignore or simplify their game mechanics, until you get to 5, where the wiki literally says, crafting items is an important part of Far Cry 5, just as it was in previous games, but it's not always something players think a lot about. Where these could be super useful, like integral parts of the game used to enhance combat or exploration or upgrading, they've just been pushed to the wayside to make room for features that will likely be forgotten again. And I think that's the general development process of Far Cry lately. It seems like Ubisoft is really willing to try some cool ideas, like every game has a unique feature or two that makes it really seem like Ubisoft's trying to innovate the series, but they don't ever give these mechanics a chance to really get on their feet. Innovations and tweaks can be made to every system I've mentioned so far, and building these up can make for one of the best games Ubisoft has ever made, but there's no commitment, and I think that's the biggest problem. Far Cry is afraid to commit. It's there with the features, and it's there with the tone of the games. Ubisoft can't decide if it wants Far Cry to be a silly haha game like Just Cause or a gritty, more immersive game like Metro. It seems like Ubisoft wants you to take the world and story seriously, but I'm sorry, it's really hard to take either of them seriously when you're constantly poking your finger at all the silly little things you got in your game and going, haha, look at this CD gun, it plays the Macarena and you kill people with it. How funny is that? How wacky is that? That's so crazy. And you can do both. You can have a serious story and setting with goofy elements. People have done it before, but you have to commit to one side of it. You're either taking yourself seriously or you're not taking yourself seriously at all. No more fence sitting, no more half-assing. Speaking of half-assing, God, I fucking hate the half-assed stories in the recent games. If you want to talk about Ubisoft not committing, let's talk about how Ubisoft can't commit to any fucking storyline after 3. 2's story was very non-existent and mostly told through the world, but it wrapped up really nicely and played really well with the world itself. 3 had a pretty dang good story, not gonna lie. I enjoy white boy Jason Brody becoming a murder maniac. I think that was fun. You know, they kind of stumbled with the endings. I'm not a big fan of arbitrary good or bads. And then 4 just drops the ball so fucking hard. AJ Gale, not a character. This dude has one iota of a personality and it's in this one optional cutscene after the arena mission. Other than these couple of lines, even in the same fucking cutscene, dude has no opinion about fucking anything. Dude cannot make a choice to save his life. And that kind of clashes with the game's story about being how there are no good choices to resolve a conflict. If you want that to be the main thing your game's about, great, that's awesome. But please give me some actual fucking choices then, Jesus Christ. Like the whole game, you're making these bullshit ass choices, and by the end, Pagan is chastising you for it. So you think to yourself, alright, I'm gonna make my own choice this time then, bitch, and you get to decide to dome the asshole and go to Lakshmana yourself. Fuck yeah. What? What? No, what? This is of course the bad ending, because the game about having no good resolutions to a conflict has a fucking bad ending and an objectively good ending where you spare Pagan, inherit Kirat, and then gun him down seconds later. And this would be fine, I wouldn't have a problem with this if you could learn about the inheritance and place your mother's ashes on your own anyways. The game literally expects you to go back to Pagan's corpse after the credits to collect a bunch of money, and you can even go into Lakshmana's shrine to get Mohan's last journal, but you cannot place your mother's ashes. Why? Would it be that fucking hard? Because I'm having a hard time believing AJ changed his mind about placing his mother's ashes because he barely expresses any emotion about it. Fuck this game's story, this shit sucks. And one quick side note, where did the narrative that Pagan is the good guy come from? Because like, no he's fucking not. Did we play the same game? Yeah, he's a good character, he's a cool guy, but dude's still a huge piece of shit. How did he become the good guy all of a sudden? And you think Ubisoft would learn from this from Far Cry 5, but they really doubled down on just fucking not caring about the story. So to set the stage, instead of having a character with no personality, they just make the main character not even a character, so he can be a stand-in for the player. Okay, sure, yeah, okay, that can work. And then they introduce some really cool story ideas like Bliss and Jacob's mind conditioning, and ideas of like, oh, you're forced to do stuff you don't want to do. Like, that's fucking sick, that's interesting. That's actually like cult shit that happens in real life, but just on a way grander scale. Jacob and Faith are pretty cool characters too. John still sucks, but there's a good story here. And then Far Cry 5 does this really cool thing where it dribbles these ideas around for a bit, it plays around with them, and then it takes all that and it shoots for the three-pointer, and then it three-points that shit right into the fucking trash. There could have been a really cool story here if the game focused on just Bliss and mind control, but no, they can't commit to that. What are you, fucking crazy? No, we gotta pull some shit out of our ass every couple seconds. And the ending to this game is so fucking stupid, dude. It throws everything the game built up into the fucking dumpster. So you roll up to Joseph's compound after killing his entire family, and dude just bursts out into the light completely unready to fight. And I'm thinking like, all right, R2, let's go, bitch. But no, you can't do that. Even though you're a silent protagonist, this game gives you zero choice on what to do, and that's present throughout the entire fucking game. I didn't bring it up earlier because I really wanted to showcase the good parts of the story, but damn, they make that really difficult sometimes. So you gotta listen to Big Daddy talk for a little bit, and then you get into some real asshole territory when your friends all show up mind-controlled from Bliss. Where the fuck did this come from? They were perfectly fine like 10 minutes ago. But then you get the classic choice, leave with your friends or kill this fucker. And this is where something really interesting happens, because if you choose the bad ending, you get a way better payoff. So in this ending, spoiler alert, you drive off with the police force ready to get the National Guard, but then only you comes on the radio and you fucking kill them. That's actually kind of cool. That actually plays back into the mind control shit you've been going through the entire game. Like, sure, it's a little bit cheesy, but like, it's interesting, it's fun, it's cool. But like I said, that's the bad ending. So what happens in the good ending? Well, Joseph gets mad at you for choosing violence like the hypocrite he is, and then the nukes drop. This is the real ending, fuck you. Excuse me, what? So the whole game, Buddy's been going on about the end of the world, and you're like, oh no, if you choose violence, he's gonna be right, whatever, fuck him. And this is supposed to be the payoff to that, which has apparently been sometimes foreshadowed by the car radio. So yeah, this is fucking stupid. Shit feels like it comes out of nowhere and has barely any connection to the rest of the game. What the fuck is this game even about, bro? So if it's about shit happening to you and having no power to do anything about it, then damn, it really succeeds there, let me tell you. Wait a minute, holy shit. Oh my god. Far Cry 5 might actually be genius, guys. What the fuck? And everything I've mentioned is it's all just so disappointing. This isn't even like an I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed moment, because I am both mad and disappointed. Far Cry as a series has had so many opportunities to innovate and improve, whether it's through the main series or the spin-offs, but they just choose to stagnate. Like, they're hardly able to commit to any new ideas. And you know what? I don't even entirely blame Ubisoft for Far Cry not knowing what it wants to be, because we, the fans, also can't make our minds up about what we want it to be. I've read so many Twitter threads and like Reddit posts and seen so many YouTube videos about people loving one feature while fucking hating another. And some people saying they don't care about the story, while for others it's the main draw. Like what I shat on in this video, some people probably love, which is fantastic. I'm glad you love those things. But when you get all this super polarizing feedback from millions of people, it's hard to make a game this big where everyone is pleased. I really just don't think it's possible. Not when the series sells millions of copies to people who want millions of different things. But anyway, yeah, I will get around to playing 6 one day. I really hope Ubisoft takes the reins and the series starts improving by the time I get around to it though, because that would be the biggest motivator to get me invested in the series again. I don't know though. Maybe it's just not for me anymore.